Hi friends. Now let's look at problem 3729. Count distinct subarrays divisible by key in sorted array. So first, this is a continuation of problem 974, right? So if you haven't watched the video for this for problem 974, you're welcome to check out that video. So this problem is an extension of that problem. So if you do the two problems together, then you can compare the differences, right? So here we are given an integer array in sorted order. So this in sorted order is very important. So also we are given an integer key. So here key is bounded below by 1, strictly positive. So a subarray of nums is called good if the sum of its element is divisible by key. We want to find the total number of distinct good subarrays of nums. So here, by distinct, we mean that if the sequences of values, if their values are different, for example, this one, so this, right? But for this subarray of length 3, you have two subarrays of length 2. Both are 1s. Those two are actually identified as 1, right? So in the first example, so the return is 3. You can have 1, 2. You can have 3. You can have the whole list. In the example 2, so there's 2, right? So because this one, you can have this length 3. But for length 3, you have multi subarrays, but they are identified as 1. And also you can have a length 6 as a whole array, right? So here the length is bounded above by 10 to the power 5, or we can interpret it as long as 10 to the power 5. This determines the problem size. So the nums, the element is strictly positive. So this emphasizes again is in sorted order, and the key we have mentioned this one. So here, actually in this problem, we are going to use the same method as in problem 974, but we need to do deduplication, right? So here, first I want to mention the monotone assumption that the given list is in sorted order is very important. We are going to use this assumption to do the deduplication. The reason is that the monotone assumption implies that the overcount is due to subarrays containing identical elements. So here I can give you an example, or you can use example 2. So here assume k is 3, right? So length 3 subarrays have some, or all have some is a multiple of k, right? But in this case, because the elements are identical, so the length is 5. So in total, we have 5 minus 3 plus 1, 4 subarrays divisible by k, but we can only count one of them, right? So that's where the overcount comes from. So with that said, now let's do the problem in 2 steps. First, count as in problem 974, and then we do deduplication, right? This will be the structure of the problem. So first, I'm going to initialize a result variable. So we're going to return its final state. Then I'm going to initialize a dictionary, right? So the prefix sum in the sense of modulo k. So 0 appears once, right? So then I'm going to set a prefix sum, or you can understand this as the current in the video for this problem, right? So next, we're going to do a for loop, iterate over the nums, or y in nums. So the pre, I'm going to first increment by this current number, and then store the remainder modulo key, right? Then first we get the result. How many subarrays has sum that is a multiple of key? So we do d get pre, if the pre is not a key in the dictionary yet, we're going to set it to be 0. That's the elegance of the get method. So once we update the result, then we're going to update the count of this pre. So the get pre there, then increment by 1, right? So this part, we finished the problem, the first part. But if for this coding, so if you just do a return result, it will work for example 1, right? Let's learn it. Yeah, use example 1 cannot have overcount. So now let's deal with the duplication, right? So here, because it's sorted, I'm going to group the elements into according to the key. So here I'm going to use iter tools group by. So for key and iterable in iter tools, group by. So nums. So actually in leetcode, you don't need to get this prefix, this module name iter tool. You can directly call this. But I wrote it here so that you know where this function or functionality comes from. And then I'm going to first change this to be a list, right? For this example, because you have only one key, right? You're going to have key is 2, and the iterable has a list 6. So you can print out this. This will be right. So the key is 2, and this one. You can also check the use of this group by function yourself. Now, I'm not going to go into that detail. Let's focus on the problem here. And then let's get the length. 3, right? So then I want to check, because the element in this list are identical like this. We just need to do the duplication. Let's check for which length it can have sum, which is a multiple of key. So basically for length in range. So because we want to find um, the list must be non-empty, because if it's empty, it's impossible to be a multiple of this key, right? So that's just the one. Also, we don't want to count the list array itself, right? Because this one we should count it once, right? So here, what we do is, if the sum is very easy to compute, it's length times the key, right? That's the element. Then if this guy modulo key is 0, right? So originally in our count, so how many we count? What we count actually is the length minus this length plus 1. But we should count only 1. Over count this one. Needed count just a 1, right? So we need to actually decrement by this amount. So what we're going to do is the result is decremented by L minus length. So you don't need this process for precedence, but I prefer to add it so that you know the logic. So we are decrementing this whole result. So once you done this, so what you do is you return the result. So before we make comments, let's do a run. Yeah, now it passes the case 2, right? Now let's see the generic case. It passes all the cases. So first comment is that this problem is an extension of this problem. Therefore, when you do leetcode problem, it really is actually beneficial if you genuinely understand some common or prototype problems. So here, the actual part is the deduplication. So this is the one part. And similarly to the previous video in this one, so we can also use counter or default dictionary. So you can do. So in that video, I used the counter, but here I'm going to use write another one using default dictionary, right? So what we are going to do is this collections default dict. So I'm going to set it to be integer. So integer means that you just default to be 0, or you can use lambda map everything to be 0 at the very beginning. So now you don't need to this. You just need to do d get d pre. And then here you just need to increment by 1, right? So you don't need to think, oh, if the key is already in the dictionary or not, because I have changed this one to be event. If we run, so we are going to test this function. Let's run it. So where let's see, oh, here I think I didn't got initialization right. So here, so I should have b there to be 1 list. Yeah, it passes the the cases. So now let's submit, right? Certainly, if you prefer, you can comment this out and you use a counter. So collections counter. So then I want to take the result that 0 appears once. So you can submit that, right? So, but in this problem, so both this vanilla way, if you are new to, you don't know this collections module, so you can use this vanilla dictionary. If you know the default dictionary or counter, so you can use this way or this way. Both works. But if you want to use those subclasses, you need to know exactly the behavior of the data subdata type, right? So with that said, I guess that's it for the current problem.